This is the fifth time in 6 years that the Packers have made it to the playoffs with Matt LaFleur as the head coach. And yet again, Matt LaFleur is probably going to get left out of the Coach of the Year conversation. And it's kind of a compliment to be left out of it when you're having a really good season. Because, if you got two kids in the house and one's a screw up and the other one's always bringing home straight A's, and the one quarter that the screw up brings home 3 A's and 4 B's, everybody loses their mind, and what a great kid Jimmy is, and the one who's grinding away, bringing home straight A's all the time is just not noticed. That's kind of how it works for Coach of the Year. It's the coach of the team that surprised us the most. That's it. So we expect a certain standard from the Green Bay Packers. Sorry, Matt, but I think from that perspective, if you understand how it works, who cares if you're not Coach of the Year? Who cares? Because it's an award that goes to the coach of the team that somehow got its crap together sufficiently enough to make us say, I thought they were going to suck this year. How'd they make it to the playoffs? Must be the coach. So it really is, in a weird sort of way, a compliment. Andy Reid hasn't won it since 2004 with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's never won it a single time. Think about that. All these brilliant years with the Kansas City Chiefs, pre and post Patrick Mahomes, he's never won it. So we'll talk a little bit more about how the coaches in the NFC North stack up in a bit, but it really is impressive that 5 out of 6 years Matt LaFleur has taken the Packers to the postseason. They've won 9 of their last 11 games. They've only lost to the Eagles, who have 3 losses on the year, the Lions, who have 2 losses on the year, and the Vikings, who have 2 losses on the year. That's 7. Carry the 1. 7 total losses for the entire year to the teams that have beaten the Green Bay Packers, because they lost the Lions twice, Eagles once, Vikings once. And they almost won the Week 1 game, and they gave the Lions everything they could handle on a Thursday night several weeks ago. And the game against the Vikings, after they fell way behind, they came storming back, and the Vikings had to hold on. There's only one game that the Packers convincingly lost. It was the Lambeau Field game against the Detroit Lions. I think it was like a 10-point margin, if I recall correctly. 24-14 kind of flutters around in my mind. It's probably wrong, but what the hell? I took a shot. So they are a very good team, and teams like that go into the playoffs with reduced expectations. Now, there's a lot of hype around the Packers, so I don't know how reduced the expectations are going to be. They're going to be expected to go to Atlanta or Tampa or Seattle or L.A. and win. They'll be favored in the wild card round. But once you get into the divisional round, if they win that first game, and who knows, but once you get into the divisional round, they're going to be the underdog most likely, maybe not by many points. And that's when, especially if you end up, if they're the 5 seed, or if they win as the 6 seed, because it's always the lowest, it gets reseeded. Unless the 7 seed pulls an upset over presumably the Eagles, the Packers, good chance they get to go to the 1 seed, whoever it may be, whether it's Detroit or the Vikings, most likely one of those two. Very slim chance for the Eagles to get there, but it's a division battle. Like this weekend, Packers going to the Vikings, that's a coin flip to me. If the Packers were going to the Lions, that's a coin flip to me. You flip the coin just right, the Packers win. So that's what's going to be crazy about this NFC playoff season between those 3 teams. Any of those 3 teams could win their playoff games. And it's going to be a battle, and it's going to be close, and it's going to be better than watching those 4 college playoff games. It still cracks me up to hear the people who work college football twist themselves into knots to gaslight us into thinking that each of the 4 games that were played between Friday night and Saturday didn't suck. Oh, there are blowouts in the NFL all the time. Yeah, but there's rarely a moment where, well, last night, yes. Last night's game, 34-0, that was a game from the opening drive where you say the Saints have no chance. Those games don't happen very often. We see a lot of games in the NFL, and I've noticed a lot of them this year where the first half is lopsided in favor of one team, and then the other team gets their act together in the second half, and it makes for an exciting finish. Every one of those 4 playoff games, Friday and the 3 on Saturday, there was never a sense that the road team had a snowball's chance in hell of winning, period. And I said this in the past because a lot of the playoff games with 4 teams are blowouts. There was the championship game not that long ago. Was it last year or 2 years ago that was a ridiculous blowout? And when you expand it, you've got a cluster of great teams every year, and then you've got everybody else. And when you start putting everybody else up against these great teams, especially if you're going to send them to play in the elements, in the stadium of that great team, what do you expect? So don't stop. You know who you are. Stop gaslighting us. The first 4 college football playoff games were doo-doo. And people got excited for it. Oh, this is new. Oh, this is great. It's like getting all excited to go drive the new car, the new family car. This is great. And you get inside and it's like, this is great. Don't we do that to ourselves? When we have build-up anticipation for something and it stinks, do we have an inclination to try to convince ourselves it doesn't stink? And maybe that's what these folks are doing. Maybe they're projecting their own feelings. They're trying to convince themselves that those 4 games didn't stink by arguing loudly to the rest of us that those 4 games didn't stink. All right, back to the NFL. First shutout of the season, the entire season, game 240. The prior 239, not a single shutout. The Packers are the first team all year long to keep an opponent from scoring a single point. It felt like there were going to be moments that maybe, somehow, some way, maybe Kalen Saunders was going to have the best chance to score points because the big man tipped the pass, had the interception, a teammate crashed into him, and he dropped it. Because remember, it was that Monday night game, Week 5, Saints-Chiefs, where he catches the tip ball in the end zone and rumbles, bumbles, and stumbles like a guy who knows what he's doing with the football because he was a high school running back. That may have been their only chance to score points. Spencer Rattler got the start, 4th start of the year. Look, he's a rookie. The Saints, they weren't eliminated until very recently because the NFC South is just not great this year. But the Saints had their moments. And the ebbs and flows of a football season, it feels like a different lifetime that the Saints came out of the gate scoring, 90 points in the first 2 games? Blew out the Panthers, blew out the Cowboys. Oh, no, the Saints are legit this year. And then they lost 7 in a row. There went Dennis Allen. In comes Darren Rizzi. He's 3-3 as the interim coach. And who knows where it goes from here for them. I'm going to skip ahead into the sound because I noticed this morning and I misread it at first. I thought that it was Darren Rizzi saying the opposite of what he said because we're watching for teams that have checked out. And we don't know which teams that have been eliminated have decided, screw this. I just want to get to the end of the season. I want to get out of here without a serious injury. I really don't care anymore because we're done. We saw the Cowboys on Sunday night play like the exact opposite of a team that was done. Does Darren Rizzi believe his team last night when they got blown out was playing like they were done? Here he is.
Yeah, I've never felt like since the day I took over, we were on a 7-game losing streak. It would have been easy for a lot of a lot of players and veteran guys especially to kind of, check out. And I've never ever felt that. I didn't feel that today. I thought, to be honest with you, I had a great prep week. We had a great walkthrough last night. I felt like we were locked in. We just didn't perform well. I mean, let's just, sometimes in this league it's going to happen. We didn't have a very good performance. But I never felt like our guys are looking down the road and not giving effort because of our playoff status. I never felt like that one time during this time I've taken over. I didn't feel like that tonight. I feel like we got out coached and out executed. I mean, it's the way it is.
Wouldn't it be better if I mean, okay, no, you know what? The guys tried, they just aren't very good. We just didn't do very well. We tried our best, and 34-0 was the best we could do. And as he said, that does happen sometimes. But, boy, it just felt more lopsided than usual last night. Again, the first shutout of the year. And the Packers pitched that shutout without 4 starters on defense. Linebacker Quay Walker, cornerback Jair Alexander, and safeties Evan Williams and Javon Bullard were both safeties, all 4 players out last night. There's an injury concern for the Green Bay offense. Christian Watson suffered a knee injury during the game. He came back. one of the team's top receivers, exited after that. After the game, Matt LaFleur said that they will do more testing today, but there is concern about Watson. And it's short week turnaround, Monday night to Sunday. At least they got their game kicked to 4:25 Eastern. So it's a few more hours, if those few more hours matter, to get Christian Watson right. But it's a tough call for the Packers because at the end of the day, they're going to be the 5 seed or the 6 seed. They're not going to win the division. They're not going to be the 7 seed. It's 5 or it's 6. And they probably, it's not going to be easy to overcome either the Lions or the Vikings. They still could. But, you got to ask yourself, how much do we really risk to try to make that happen? At what point do we just say, we'll take 5, we'll take 6. Either way, we're good to go here. And we're not going to push Christian Watson back to the field prematurely. We're not going to expose Josh Jacobs to any unnecessary wear and tear. They got him out of that game in the second half. People thought maybe he was injured. He said after the game, he was told, one more score and you're done. And that's smart. The way he runs with that style, you never know when something's going to happen that keeps him from playing. And without him, they mentioned this on the broadcast last night. And I think we've said this earlier in the year. We get so caught up in Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. The fact that Josh Jacobs ended up with the Packers, and despite the inflated numbers that came out when he first signed, as inflated numbers always do because the agents feed them to the reporters who pass them along without scrutiny or asking any questions, it looks like a much better deal than it is. It was basically a one-year trial for Josh Jacobs and the Green Bay Packers. I have a feeling they're going to decide to keep him around for a second year because he makes a big difference in that offense, especially in a year where it took Jordan Love a little while to get going. He's up to the level of performance that we were accustomed to late last year, but he had that knee injury, missed a couple of games. Remember, he suffered the MCL injury that looked a lot worse than it ended up being week 1 against the Eagles in Brazil, missed week 2, week 3, came back for the Vikings game. He had a groin injury. This is a guy who forces himself back onto the field maybe before he's ready, and that's admirable, but if it's affecting your team's fortunes, it's not. But Josh Jacobs has helped fuel that offense to the point where Jordan Love has settled in. And if for some reason Jordan Love gets banged up, Malik Willis came in for mop-up duty, and he looked as good as he did when he had to replace Jordan Love due to injury earlier in the year. Let's hear a little bit from Packers coach Matt LaFleur on whether the Packers are currently trending in the right direction at the right time.
Yeah, I would say so. And what's really cool is you're getting contributions from a lot of different people. So I think that is usually the mark of a good team. You got to stay healthy and continue to build on what you've done. And, but I love the energy of our group. Our guys show up ready to work, willing to work every day. And we got to continue to push one another to be at our best because this is the time when you need to be playing your best ball.
That's great, but, a lot of teams fit that shoe. We heard Mark Murphy at the top of the show saying, I sense something special in this room. There are plenty of teams that can say the same thing. That's one of the beauties of a wide-open playoff that isn't like the college football playoff, where you do have plenty of teams that could have things fall the right way. So what's it come down to? And we're getting closer and closer to that point. We're just 2 weekends away from throwing out the regular season, forgetting about the records, assigning the 7 spots in each of the 2 conferences to the playoff teams, and then let's go. It's one game, winner take all, loser go home, and we see all the time the things that can affect the outcome of one game. It comes down to, at most, 5 or 6 moments. The talent level is equal enough between the teams that will be left. Now, every once in a while, you're going to see one team just steamroll another physically. But for most of these games, it's at most 5 or 6 moments. Whether it's you make a play when the opportunity arises, you fail to make a play when an opportunity arises, a bad call gets made for the team that eventually loses, which means it's a good call for the team that eventually wins. There are so many different ways that those 5 or 6 plays per game can play out, and that's the difference between advancing or going home, and ultimately the difference between winning a Super Bowl and losing it. And that's why the Chiefs will continue to be a team that we have to take very seriously. We're going to talk about their Wednesday, Christmas Day game against the Steelers in a bit, but you have to take them seriously because when you have a quarterback who can bend those 5 or 6 moments his team's way on a consistent basis and whose ceiling has been 3 Super Bowls and whose floor, his absolute floor, his worst performance since becoming the starter in 2018 is losing in overtime of the AFC Championship. He's never had a worse season than losing in overtime of the AFC Championship. I was talking about the Vikings' experiences earlier since 1976, the last time they went to a Super Bowl and lost to the then Oakland Raiders. Since then, the absolute best the Vikings have done is lose in overtime of the NFC Championship twice. The worst, and that's 48 years, the worst in 6 prior seasons as a starter that Patrick Mahomes has ever done is lose in overtime of the AFC Championship twice. That's it. So when you have that going for you, and it is weird. We talk about the Vikings being an overlooked 13-2 team. The Chiefs are kind of an overlooked, taken for granted, not really believe in them 14-1 team. They could sell the nobody believes in us spiel far more effectively than Tom Brady ever did. Because I think with the Chiefs, we just watched them, and a lot of people have the attitude of, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. They're not moving the ball effectively on the ground. They're not moving the ball effectively through the air. They don't look like the team that we're used to seeing in the red helmets. It's just a matter of time. And what do? They keep winning. They keep winning, and they keep winning. And we're not going to have a picks podcast until Thursday. Chris and I are going to submit our picks for the Christmas Day games at some point today. I mean, yeah, this all lines up for the Steelers, but, I mean, Chiefs have lost 1 game all year. They've lost 1 game since Christmas of last year when they stepped on a rake against the Raiders. I think they just thought that, we just show up and play, and the Raiders are going to go along with it. They're going to play the role of Washington Generals to go along with our Harlem Globetrotters on Christmas Day, and we're going to win this game easily. And they've lost 1 game in 365 days. They've lost 1 game. All right. One last thing. I was debating playing this because what happened was third quarter of the game last night, watching the game, trying to watch the game, trying to stay engaged in the game because I knew I got to talk about it by myself today. I can't just rely on Devin to fill in the gaps of my ignorance of what happened during the game. And I was working on some stuff, working on the power rankings and watching the game. And there was a moment in the third quarter, the Saints had the ball. And, if wherever you may be, if you're at work, if you're at home, if you're at school, if you're walking down the street, if you think you heard somebody say your name, you look up. And the Saints did an audible. Spencer Rattler did an audible. And I was like, and it's like, what did they say? And it's like, no, that's not what he said. And I just forgot about it. And then later on, somebody texted, hey, were you watching the game when the Saints said what I think they said? And it's like, yeah, I don't think they said what you think they said. I don't think they said what caused me to say, did somebody say my name? Without further ado, here's the moment, 6:37 or thereabouts to play in the third quarter. Listen for yourself. I don't want to introduce confirmation bias into this, but listen for yourself.
Hey, let's go Mario! 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 Let's go Mario! Mario! Mario!
There it is. That's good. It's Mario. It's Mario. It's resolved. It's Mario. Enhanced Thank you, NBC. All right, you can stop it now. Thank you, NBC, for the enhanced audio. It's Mario. It's Mario. Thank you. It was harder to tell while watching it through a haze of cigar smoke and maybe after having a drink or two in my barn. It was Mario. Thank you. Because especially since the play that they checked to went nowhere. Like, if it had been a touchdown, yeah, put my name on that, baby. But that's good. And it was funny because I sent the clip to my wife. And again, the audio wasn't nearly as clear as that. So well done, Courtney, getting the raw audio that sounds a lot more clear. I sent it to her and I said, what do you think he's saying? And I said, then she said, what is he saying? I said, well, what does it sound like? She said, it sounds like our name, but it's not. I said, well, what else would it be? She said, something that sounds like our name. Come on. So she was right. As she, I was going to say usually is, she always is. So, and I didn't, because I know people on the Saints. I know Rizzy. I don't know what kind of impishness is going to creep into someone's audible calls on the 23rd of December. So thank you for making it Mario, and thank you for getting the audio so I could come to the conclusion that, especially since it was like a 2-yard loss on a run play that went nowhere. Fortunately, they went with Mario and not Luigi. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.